My husband betrayed me with my assistant, so I made sure divorce was the one thing he could never have. I know the title sounds insane. Trust me, if someone had told me 5 years ago that this would become my life, I would have laughed in their face. But sometimes betrayal changes people in ways they don't recognize until it's too late. I'm 38 years old. My husband, Adrian, is 41. Technically, we're still married. Legally. Socially.
Publicly.
But emotionally, what exists between us now is something colder than hatred. It's ownership. And before people immediately judge me, let me explain how we got here. I was born into money. Not influencer rich. Not successful entrepreneur rich. Old money. The kind with lawyers, private foundations, family board seats, and buildings carrying your last name. My grandfather built one of the largest luxury hotel chains in Europe, and by the time I was born, wealth had become less about money and more about legacy. Appearances mattered more than feelings in my family. Scandal was treated like death. Weakness even worse. I grew up understanding two things very clearly. Protect the family image. Never let outsiders humiliate you. Then I met Adrian. And unfortunately for me, I loved him for all the reasons my family didn't. He wasn't rich. Didn't come from status. He was ambitious, charming, confident, and unbelievably good at making people feel special. When we met, he worked as a junior architect at a firm my father's company hired for a hotel renovation. He made me laugh in ways nobody else ever had. With him, I felt normal. Not like an heiress. Not like an obligation. Just a woman. My parents hated him immediately, which honestly made me love him more. Classic mistake. We got married after 2 years together. And despite what people assume about wealthy marriages, ours actually started happy. Very happy. We traveled constantly, bought a beautiful estate outside the city, hosted ridiculous dinner parties, spent weekends on the coast. Eventually, Adrian joined one of my family's development companies. That decision would later become the biggest mistake of my life. At first, he worked hard, really hard. My father even admitted privately that Adrian was smarter than he expected. And honestly, I was proud of him. I defended him constantly against my family's judgment. Whenever they implied he only married me for money, I shut it down immediately. I trusted him completely, which makes what happened next even more humiliating. About 4 years into our marriage, I hired a new executive assistant named Camille. She was 26, beautiful in a very effortless way, smart,
Polished. Charming.
the kind of woman who enters a room and instantly understands how to adapt herself to whoever she's speaking to. Looking back now, I sometimes wonder if she studied people the way predators study prey. At first, I genuinely liked her. She made my life easier, handled scheduling chaos, managed events, organized travel, and Adrian seemed to like working with her too. Again, none of this registered as suspicious initially, because when you trust someone deeply, your brain automatically rejects possibilities that threaten your reality. Then small things started happening. Camille laughing too hard at Adrian's jokes. Adrian suddenly caring more about his appearance. Late meetings that somehow always involved both of them. Still, I ignored it. Or maybe I chose to ignore it, because admitting suspicion would mean admitting vulnerability. And vulnerability was something I had been trained my entire life to avoid. The first real crack happened at our annual charity gala, one of the biggest social events my family hosts every year. Politicians, executives, celebrities. Image matters enormously there. At one point during the evening, I walked backstage looking for Adrian because he was supposed to join me for a speech. And I found him with Camille. Nothing explicit, but intimate enough that my stomach immediately dropped. She was fixing his tie. His hand rested on her waist longer than appropriate. And the second they saw me, both stepped apart too quickly. You know how your instincts sometimes recognize betrayal before your brain catches up? That feeling hit me immediately. Later that night, I asked Adrian directly if something inappropriate was happening. And he actually looked offended. Offended. He kissed my forehead and said, "You're imagining things." I wanted to believe him.
So I did.
For another 8 months. Then came the discovery that destroyed my marriage permanently. I wasn't snooping. That's the ironic part. Adrian left his iPad at home one morning while rushing to the airport for a business trip. Messages started appearing while it sat on the kitchen counter. At first I ignored them. Then one preview appeared from Camille. "I missed last night already." I think my entire body went cold. Still, some pathetic part of me hoped there was an innocent explanation. There wasn't. I opened the messages. And honestly, I wish I hadn't, because there are things you can never unread. Apparently, the affair had been going on for almost a year.
A year.
While attending family events beside me, sleeping beside me, planning vacations with me, the messages were disgusting. Not just sexual, emotional, mocking. That was the part that truly destroyed me. Reading the person you love joke about you with another woman changes something permanent inside your brain. One message from Camille said, "Does she seriously not notice?" And Adrian replied, "She notices less than you think." I still remember staring at that line while physically shaking. Not from sadness. From humiliation. Because suddenly every warning my family gave me replayed in my head. Every doubt. Every criticism. Every prediction. And worst of all, they had been right. I confronted Adrian that night after he returned home. At first, he denied everything despite the evidence literally sitting on the table. Then, eventually, he admitted it. Apparently, he never meant for it to happen.
Classic cheater line.
But then he said something that fundamentally changed the course of our entire relationship.
He said,
"I still love you." As if that somehow made betrayal smaller. Asked if he loved Camille too. And after a long silence, he said, "I don't know." That answer killed something inside me permanently. Now here's where people expect the story to go toward divorce. That's what I expected to initially. But then reality became more complicated. Because divorce for families like mine isn't emotional. It's corporate, financial, political,
public,
and more importantly, humiliating. My father wanted Adrian destroyed immediately. Lawsuits, public scandal, removal from the company. But then something happened I didn't anticipate. I looked at Adrian during one of our arguments and realized something horrifying. He was terrified. Not of losing me, of losing the life attached to me. The homes, the status, the access, the power. And suddenly, I didn't want freedom anymore. I wanted consequence. People always imagine revenge as screaming or destruction. But real revenge can look much quieter, colder, more controlled. So, I made a decision. I refused divorce. Instead, I offered Adrian a choice. Remain married publicly and keep the scandal private, or leave with absolutely nothing. No company position. No financial settlement. No social protection. Nothing. And before anyone says that's abusive, you need to understand something. Adrian had signed one of the most aggressive prenups imaginable. If infidelity became public during divorce proceedings, he'd lose virtually everything. My family designed it that way intentionally. Ironically, the same contract he once laughed about became the cage trapping him. And he chose to stay.
Of course he did.
Camille disappeared from the company within a week. My father made sure of that. Last I heard, she moved to another country. Adrian begged me for forgiveness afterward.
Constantly. Therapy.
Apologies. Flowers. Trips. But by then, something inside me had frozen solid. I no longer saw him as my husband. I saw him as a man who gambled everything for excitement and lost. And, weirdly enough, watching him realize the consequences slowly, over time, became more satisfying than divorce ever would have been. Because now he lives inside the ruins he created. Every charity gala, every family dinner, every public appearance. He stands beside me knowing everyone close to us knows exactly what he did. My family tolerates him now with polite disgust. The respect he once desperately wanted from them is gone permanently. And he knows it. That's the punishment. Not losing money. Not losing status. living every day understanding he destroyed the one person who genuinely loved him before power entered the equation.
People ask why I stay.
Truthfully, at first it was revenge. Now, I'm not even sure anymore. Maybe control. Maybe pride. Maybe because ending the marriage would feel too clean after the mess he made. The strangest part is that over time Adrian genuinely changed. Or, at least I think he did. He became quieter, more attentive, almost desperate to earn back pieces of me that no longer exist. Sometimes I catch him looking at me like he's mourning someone still alive. And honestly, maybe he is. Because the woman who adored him died the night I opened those messages. What remains now is someone colder. Someone who understands power differently. We still attend events together. Still host dinners. Still vacation publicly. To outsiders, we probably look like an elegant, successful couple. But privately, there's a distance between us that never disappears. Sometimes he tries reaching for my hand in bed. And sometimes I let him. Not from love. From habit. Because after enough years, even resentment becomes routine. The saddest part in all of this is that I think Adrian finally truly loves me now. Not the lifestyle. Not the status.
Me.
And it happened only after he lost the version of me capable of loving him back. Which honestly feels almost poetic. People think betrayal destroys relationships instantly. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it transforms them into something far stranger. Something that survives long after love is gone.